We'll now continue our discussion of section 2.6 on the introduction of circles. Our next example asks us to sketch a graph of the circle defined by x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 4. So recall the definition and the standard form of an equation of a circle looks like x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. So the only step that we really need to do first is we need to rewrite our given equation in a format that is exactly the same as the standard form of the equation. For example, on the x minus 2, that is an exact match of the x minus h. It's x in both cases, it's subtraction in both cases, and we could conclude then that the h value is a 2. But on the y's, we have a y in both cases. This one has a plus, this one has a minus, and then we have the 3 in the k. So let's rewrite this. I'm going to leave the first one as is because we said that there was nothing wrong with the x minus 2 squared. But for the y minus k, we need to write it as y minus a number. And it needs to be the same as a positive 3 when we're done. So the best way to do that is to write it this way. Y minus a negative 3. That is the same thing as y plus 3. And now I have y and a subtraction and a k value equal to negative 3. And then the r squared, how can we write 4 as a number that's squared? We could write it as 2 squared. And so our r value would be 2. Another way to look at this is to simply take, especially with the center point, is to take the opposite of the number that you see. So for example, if in the x parenthesis you're looking at this and you see a minus 2, then we should put a plus 2 over here. And if looking at this we see a plus 3, then we should put a minus 3 over here. And this works because our standard form equation asks us to do the subtraction, which is the opposite of the number. All right, so either way, we now have a center. Remember, HK is the center, so our center is negative 2, 3. And we have a radius of 2, and we're going to take that to a graph. So 2, negative 3 is our center. So I can come over 2 and drop down negative 3 and plot my center. And then the radius was 2. So the easiest way to draw the circle is to go directly across 2, directly up 2, directly over 2, directly down 2. And then connect those dots. Now our last example asks us to sketch the graph of the equation, and yet the equation is not given in standard form. So our equation looks like x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 2y is equal to negative 1. Now in order to get this into standard form, we're going to need to complete the square for both the x's and also for the y's. So I'm going to begin by rearranging my terms. I'm going to put everything that has an x together. So that's the x squared and the 8x. I'm going to skip a little space right in here. And then I'm going to put the y's together, group the y's together. So that's a positive y squared and a negative 2y. And then I'm going to leave a little space. And then I'm going to put my negative 1 on the right-hand side where it began. So now remember that in terms of completing the square, we're going to take the number in front of the quote middle term. So the number in front of the x or the number in front of the y, and we're going to take half of that term. So I am going to, for this 8, I am going to multiply that by a half, and then I'm going to square it. So we know that half of 8 is 4, and 4 squared is 16. And so I'm going to add 16 here, and remember that if you add it to one side, you need to add it to the other side as well. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the y's. So I'm going to take the -2 and multiply by a half and square it. So half of -2 is -1. -1 squared is +1. And so again, I'm going to add a +1 to both sides of the equation. Now our goal is to factor this set and then factor this set. And so when we do that, we know that we need an x and an x to make our first terms equal an x squared. We also know that these parentheses have to be identical. So the only way for them to be identical, like putting an 8 and a 2 would not work because we need the same number in both places. So it would have to be a 4 times a 4. And there's all pluses here, so we know that both of these would be positive. And so that part of the equation is going to give me x plus 4 squared. We're going to do the same thing on the y's. So we're going to have y and y so that together they make y squared. The only way to make a 1 is to do 1 times 1. And we do have this subtraction on the middle term, so we're going to make both of those a minus. And so it becomes y minus 1 squared. And our numbers over here, -1 and a +1 cancel out, leaving me just the 16. So this is the standard form of the equation of a circle. X plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to 16. Now, we need to identify from that standard form the center and the radius so that we can draw a picture of the circle. So the center, remember, is the opposite of the numbers that we have here. So this is a +4. In the center, we're going to start with a -4. This is a -1, so we'll have a +1 there. And then the radius, remember that this is r squared, so it's a number squared making 16. So the radius would need to be 4. So let's go draw our picture. So we have the center at -4, 1. So let's mark that off. -1, -2, -3, -4, and up 1. There's the center point. And we said the radius was 4. So again, go directly across. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And go directly up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you have those 4 outside points plotted, then you can connect them and sketch out your circle.